Well, the space object 3I Atlas just whipped past the Sun, and instead of clearing things up, the new images made everything even stranger. Because if this thing really is a comet, then it's the strangest comet ever recorded. And if it's not a comet, then we're watching something completely new invade our solar system. So, should we be worried? This all started back in July 2025. Astronomers using the Atlas Survey telescope in Chile spotted a faint, super fast-moving object, something unlike anything they'd seen before. That was our first look at 3I Atlas, and right away, scientists had a lot of questions. Where did it come from? What's it made of? But more importantly, what is this thing? At first glance, it almost looks like a tiny cell, right? Like something you'd see under a microscope, with a bright center like a nucleus, and this fuzzy outer layer. But when we look at it from a different angle, the mystery clears up. That glow is actually a comet tail. It's precisely because it looks like and behaves like a comet that NASA finally confirmed it. Yup, 3I Atlas really is a comet. The big giveaway is that it has an icy nucleus and a coma, which is that glowing cloud of gas and dust surrounding it. But this comet is a very special one because it didn't come from our own solar system. It came from somewhere else in the Milky Way, and that's ridiculously rare. To give you an idea, we've only ever seen 3 objects like this, period. The first 2 interstellar visits were the famous Oumuamua and the comet Borisov, and now 3I Atlas. Cool, but you might be asking, how do we know it actually came from outside our solar system? You see, normal comets are bound to the Sun. They swing around it in these big looping orbits. But 3I Atlas isn't doing that. Its crazy speed and path show it's not on a closed orbit around the Sun. And the only logical explanation is that it came from another star system and, just wandered into ours by chance. In other words, this is just a visitor passing through our solar system, and is doing it at a ridiculous speed. When we first spotted it, it was going around 137,000 miles per hour. So this object probably spent millions of years cruising through deep space just to hang around our solar system for a few months. And after this quick visit, it'll vanish into interstellar space, and we'll never see it again. Recently, 2 European Space Agency satellites, along with several NASA spacecraft near Mars, captured new images of 3I Atlas zooming in as it passed the red planet. And one of those images is pretty incredible, showing a cloud of hydrogen atoms around the comet. Scientists were pretty excited about that, as every bit of information we get from this visitor matters. Because the reality is, there are still a lot of unanswered questions about this object, starting with its size. We can't pin it down exactly yet, but NASA says it could be anywhere from about 1,400 feet to around 3.5 miles in diameter. Its exact shape is another mystery, because our telescopes can't really get a clear look at it. The nucleus is buried inside this bright coma of gas and dust, and the sunlight reflecting off all that dust basically blinds us. So for now, we're trying to see it through a bright, dusty fog. If you put all the pieces together, its behavior, its chemistry, and the images we've gotten so far, everything points to 3I Atlas being a comet. But even with all that, there are still some pretty controversial ideas floating around about what it might be. Not long after it was discovered, Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb said there's maybe a 30 to 40% chance this object isn't something naturally formed. That comment kicked off a wave of online buzz, with people jumping to wild possibilities. Like maybe it's some kind of extraterrestrial tech, or worse, a threat to Earth. Ooh. According to this theory, 3I Atlas might be a massive extraterrestrial mothership. Its odd trajectory could mean it's sending out little satellites toward Jupiter to collect intel for some extraterrestrial civilization. So, in that version of the story, this isn't just a comet. It's basically advanced space spy tech. But then the obvious question is, why spy on Jupiter, right? I mean, wouldn't Earth be way more interesting to an interstellar civilization? Well, in this theory, Jupiter is the target because it's so much bigger than Earth and the other neighboring planets. The idea that a planet that massive could act kind of as an interstellar beacon, something that stands out from far away. The region near Jupiter is another big reason. It's almost like it's an ideal parking spot, where space technology could basically hang out without using much fuel at all. In other words, if you were going to place advanced satellites somewhere to watch a planet, well, that's prime real estate. Pretty cool, huh? But as fun as that theory is, we gotta come back down to Earth for a second. According to the major space agencies, this thing is a comet, case closed. But that label doesn't make it any less special. 3I Atlas is still a total weirdo in the best way, and it stands out for a bunch of reasons. Let's look at 3 of the most important ones. First, this object is old, like really old. Older than me. Scientists think it's been traveling through space for at least 7 billion years. That's so far back in time that it was formed before our Sun and Earth even existed. So yeah, it's probably the most ancient thing we've ever seen in our cosmic neighborhood. Second, its glow. Comets can sometimes look kinda green, and here's why. When a comet gets closer to the Sun, the ice inside it heats up and starts releasing gas. I know the feeling. Some of that gas is made of carbon-based molecules, especially one called diatomic carbon, or C2. When sunlight hits those molecules, they light up, and to us, that glow shows up as green. But with 3I Atlas, that green color is, well, confusing. The data suggests that this comet is actually low on those carbon chain molecules. So, the big mystery is, if it doesn't have much C2, how is it glowing green at all? Well, nobody knows. And now, the third thing that makes this comet stand out. It seems to be giving off a metal alloy we've basically never seen in nature. So this comet is releasing a plume that contains nickel. That's normal. What's strange is what's missing: iron. In comets, nickel and iron usually show up in pretty similar amounts. Here, we're seeing nickel, but no clear sign of iron. And that's almost unheard of. If the data holds up, it points to an alloy called nickel tetracarbonyl, something we've only ever seen before in human-made industrial processes, not out in space. No other known object has shown this kind of signature. Well, now that you're familiar with 3I Atlas, we gotta answer the biggest question of all. Is it a threat to us? Good news! No, the comet isn't dangerous, and it's going to stay really far from Earth. So we can all take a deep breath. Well, I feel better. Although it's harmless, tracking it has been super valuable for planetary defense. You see, space agencies are always watching asteroids and comets, running the numbers on their orbits, and making sure we'd get a warning if something ever did head our way. But 3I Atlas gave them something new to practice with. This is the first time tracking data from spacecraft orbiting another planet were officially submitted to and accepted by the Minor Planet Center. That's the big global database where asteroid and comet observations get collected and checked, so scientists everywhere can stay on the same page. So, in a way, 3I Atlas was like a rehearsal. Gathering data like this from a totally new setup helps researchers sharpen their methods and improve how we spot future space objects. And that means better detection, faster tracking, and more readiness, just in case the next visitor isn't quite so friendly. Uh-oh. A mysterious space visitor has recently passed its closest approach to Earth, flying by at a distance of 64 million miles. It might be something totally natural and born on the outskirts of the solar system, or some unknown civilization could be examining us from above right at this moment. This new object looks a lot like another strange wanderer called 3I Atlas, and you'll understand why we say strange pretty soon. So, could both of them come from the same place outside our solar system? What we do know is that this new object is relatively close to us, in space terms of course, and scientists are now studying it closely. They first spotted it inside our solar system, and people are paying attention because it showed up not long after 3I Atlas passed near our Sun. On November 2, 2025, astronomer Gennady Borisov, the same person who discovered interstellar comet 2I Borisov in 2019, found this new object. It's now got its official name and is listed in NASA's and the Minor Planet Center's databases. C-2025V1 has some unusual features. Its orbit is tilted 113 degrees, which means it's moving almost up and over the regular path that planets take. Even more bizarre, its orbital plane is almost at a right angle to the path of 3I Atlas. Plus, it doesn't have a clear comet tail, which is odd. Right now, its orbit has an eccentricity of 1.0095. And let me break it down in human language. If that number was well above 1, it would mean the object definitely came from outside the solar system. But because it's only just a bit above 1, the most likely explanation is that C-2025V1 came from the Oort cloud. That's a giant faraway shell of icy objects that surrounds the solar system. Now scientists check this by basically rewinding the object's path, sending it all the way back to about 1000 AU. That's 1,000 times farther than the Earth is from the Sun. At that huge distance, the planets can't mess with its motion anymore. When they redo the orbit from that point, its eccentricity, the number that tells you if it's from outside the solar system, usually drops below 1, which means it's still part of our solar system. But at the same time, even a tiny push from Jupiter while passing by could make even a normal Oort cloud comet look like it has an eccentricity slightly above 1. And on top of that, small blasts of gas coming off the comet's surface can also change the numbers a little. So, to put it simply, it probably isn't interstellar. It just looks that way because of small pushes and gas bursts. C-2025V1 is still exciting, even if it comes from the Oort cloud, because studying it gives us a chance to analyze the material from that distant region and learn how our solar system formed and evolved. Now let's get back to the mystery of 3I Atlas. Before anything else, let's explain what 3I Atlas actually is. It's most likely a comet, basically a huge, dirty snowball flying through space. You can't see it with your own eyes or with a regular telescope. But there's good news. A powerful telescope in Italy is streaming it live for free. So anyone can actually watch this mysterious object as it passes by. Scientists think this comet weighs about 33 billion tons. That number is hard to imagine, so here are a few comparisons. The Eiffel Tower weighs around 10,000 tons. So 33 billion tons is the same as a whopping 3.3 million Eiffel Towers. And if you decide to compare the space visitor to buildings, 33 billion tons is about the same as the weight of several huge city areas made entirely of steel and concrete. But even all that size isn't the wildest part. Some experts think this object might be a piece of unknown technology from outside our galaxy. And they're not saying this just for fun. There are real reasons behind the theory. 3I Atlas was first noticed in July by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, or ATLAS. Shortly after, NASA confirmed that the object wasn't from our solar system at all. It's an interstellar object, only the third ever discovered. The first one was Oumuamua in 2017, which looked long and flat and didn't behave like a normal rock. The second was Comet BI Borisov in 2019. Now we have 3I Atlas, and it is enormous compared with the other two. Its nucleus is up to 3.5 miles wide, while Oumuamua was only about a quarter mile long and Borisov was around a half-mile across. Besides being huge, 3I Atlas is unusual in several other ways. As it moves through the solar system, it's releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide and gas. This suggests that 3I Atlas is 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, which means 1,000 to 100,000 times more massive than the other two known interstellar visitors. Such an enormous difference is a real scientific mystery. It's also traveling incredibly fast, about 150,000 miles per hour, which is almost 200 times the speed of sound. And unlike objects in our solar system, which followed curved paths because of gravity, 3I Atlas is moving on a nearly straight line. That alone makes it stand out. These odd behaviors have led some researchers to consider a pretty unexpected idea. 3I Atlas might be a probe sent by another civilization, possibly to study Earth. According to this theory, the object could be a sign of some kind of intelligence from beyond our solar system. Why do they think this? Well, because the object's movement doesn't match what you'd expect from something controlled only by gravity. It also passes close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, and these are the planets that might be especially interesting for an outside civilization to observe. Another very unusual feature of 3I Atlas's path is that its orbit is tilted only a little compared to the plane of the solar system, about 5 degrees, and it moves in the opposite direction to most planets. This feature might allow the object, or its creators, to take extremely precise measurements of planets, things like their orbits and sizes, to plan a perfect flight route through the solar system. And if 3I Atlas suddenly changes direction at some point, that could mean it's using a built-in engine instead of simply drifting through space. Now, new photos have also shown that 3I Atlas has at least 7 jets blasting material into space, some shooting in totally opposite directions. Now, if this thing is just a normal comet, it would have had to lose a huge amount of its original mass when it passed near the Sun, way more than just 10 to 20%. Only some of that material would actually push the object in one direction, so the total amount blown off would need to be massive. If that's what happened, then there should be now a giant cloud of gas and dust around 3I Atlas. And if that cloud exists, it'll be pretty easy to figure out what the comet is made of. The James Webb Space Telescope will check this when 3I Atlas gets closest to Earth on December 19, 2025. But if 3I Atlas is not a normal comet and is actually some kind of technology, it wouldn't need to lose that much material. Engines built by an advanced civilization could give it a boost while using way less gas because they shoot it out way faster. Faster exhaust gives more push with less fuel, so a technological object wouldn't need to blast away big chunks of itself the way a natural comet would. So, to sum it up, there's still a big mystery around 3I Atlas. Could it really be a technological mothership that released small probes into the inner solar system? But C2025 V1 doesn't fit that idea, unless one of the objects used some kind of engine. The closest their orbits ever come is about 46 million miles, and the two objects themselves were never closer to each other than about 140 million miles. The tiny non-gravitational push detected in 3I Atlas is nowhere near strong enough to close this gap. So, C2025 V1 is almost certainly not one of the many probes people imagine 3I Atlas might have released. A large space probe is nearing the Sun. The terrifying heat of the star begins to melt the shell of the spacecraft. Another moment, and the probe bursts into flames. In no time, it disintegrates in a powerful explosion. Ah, what a sad ending. If it were true, it was not a probe. It was a comet known as 3I Atlas. And despite everything people say, it's still intact and thriving. The thing is, there is a rumor online saying that comet 3I Atlas exploded when it got closest to the Sun. But astronomers say this is not true. There was no explosion. and the comet's nucleus still looks whole and undamaged, which is kinda surprising, since comets that pass very close to the Sun usually go through some serious changes. You see, comets are made of a mix of ice, dust, and rocky material, which is why they're often called dirty snowballs. So, when they come close to the Sun, the intense heat from our star makes their ice turn into gas. This new gas can burst out in huge jets, form a cloud around the comet called a coma, and/or be pushed away into a long tail. Sunlight makes all of these parts shine more brightly, and even people with small or simple telescopes can study the comet if the viewing conditions are good. But aside from being a breathtaking view, such a close approach can break off pieces of a comet or even tear its whole nucleus apart. Now, it's true that some comets survive this process, but many, especially small ones, or comets entering the inner solar system for the first time, break into pieces or disappear completely. Well, 3I Atlas acted differently. So there. It reached its closest point to the Sun on October 29, 2025. This point is called the perihelion. At that moment, the comet was about 130 million miles from the Sun. That's about 1.5 times the distance between the Sun and our planet. The comet was also on the opposite side of the Sun from Earth, so the star was blocking it from our view and we couldn't see the comet. Anyway, even though 3I Atlas could hypothetically break apart or release lots of fragments, it didn't. The nucleus stayed intact, and this made the comet's behavior even more unusual and interesting to scientists. They looked closely at the new photos and said everything looked normal. Now, interestingly, the day before, some people thought the comet had broken into pieces after it came out from behind the far side of the Sun. This idea became popular after a blog post said the comet had lost a lot of mass. So, to make this claim, the blog used photos taken on November 9th by 2 small telescopes in Spain. The pictures show jets of gas coming out of the comet. The scientists used this to estimate how much material was coming off the comet, claiming that it should have broken into at least 16 pieces. However, many scientists have questioned this statement. Most researchers say there's no proof that the comet exploded. One scientist who studies the comet says that all the images he had seen showed a completely normal, healthy comet. There's no sign that the main body of the comet has broken apart. Still, now that the comet is coming back into view, astronomers are watching it very carefully. They want to learn more about the comet's materials and structure. Right now, if you look at it from Earth, the comet seems to be slowly moving higher in the eastern sky. If the weather is good, people in many parts of the northern hemisphere can see it with a small telescope, like this one with a 6-inch lens. And many do pay attention to the comet. Since it was discovered in July, it has become the center of many curious ideas. Some people are sure that the comet, which comes from outside our solar system and might be more than 7 billion years old, could be a probe sent by a different civilization. Now, most astronomers strongly disagree, of course. They believe the comet is completely natural and comes from another star system somewhere in the Milky Way. And this is actually exciting. Comet 3I Atlas is only the 3rd interstellar comet ever seen, and it is the largest one of its kind. Before, it was Comet 2I Borisov that passed through in 2019, and Oumuamua, a weird elongated object that appeared in 2017. But 3I Atlas, with its up to 3.5-mile nucleus, dwarfs Oumuamua, which was just a quarter mile long, and Borisov, which is about 0.3 of a mile across. Plus, 3I Atlas may be the oldest comet humans have ever observed. Oumuamua is much younger, around 1 billion years old. It came from the galaxy's thin disk, where new stars are still being born. It was the first known object from another star system to pass through our solar system, basically our first interstellar guest. It was super stretched out, about 10 times longer than it was wide, unlike anything else we've spotted in space. As for 2I Borisov, it sits in between, at roughly 1.7 billion years old. It also came from the thin disk. It was the first confirmed comet to come from another star system, and it gave scientists a super rare peek at what materials beyond our solar system were made of. Unlike the first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, which looked more like an asteroid, Borisov behaved like a classic comet. It had a bright coma, a temporary fuzzy atmosphere of gas and dust forming around the comet's nucleus as it approaches the Sun. Plus, it also had a long tail of dust and gas. Now, 2I Borisov is speeding away from the Sun and will never return. But it allowed scientists to take a glimpse into the chemistry and history of distant worlds. Now, let's get back to Comet 3I Atlas. It will pass closest to Earth on December 19th. Until then, scientists will make many more observations. People will also make many new claims about the comet, that's for sure. But it's best to be cautious and not believe everything immediately. By the way, even though you can't see this famous comet with your own eyes or with a regular telescope, hey, that's good news. A powerful telescope in Italy is streaming it live for free. Whoa! So anyone can actually watch this mysterious object as it passes by. Scientists think this comet weighs about 33 billion tons. That's a big number. How about we make a few comparisons? The Eiffel Tower weighs around 10,000 tons. So, 33 billion tons is the same as 3.3 million Eiffel Towers. And if you decide to compare the space visitor to buildings, well, 33 billion tons is about the same as the weight of several huge city areas made entirely of steel and concrete. Now, 3I Atlas was first noticed in July by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, which, if you're paying attention, is where they got the nickname Atlas. Shortly after, NASA confirmed that the object wasn't from our solar system at all. Now, besides being huge, 3I Atlas is unusual in several other ways. As it moves through the solar system, it's releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide and dust. So this suggests that 3I Atlas is 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, which means 1,000 to 100,000 times more massive than the 2 other known interstellar visitors. Such an enormous difference is a real scientific mystery. It's also traveling incredibly fast, about 150,000 miles per hour, which is almost 200 times the speed of sound. Hey, that will get you a speeding ticket. And unlike objects in our solar system, which follow curved paths because of gravity, 3I Atlas is moving on a nearly straight line. That alone makes it stand out. Now that the comet has moved past the Sun, telescopes on Earth can see it again. Comet 3I Atlas is important to us because it's only the third interstellar visitor we've ever seen, and it may be the biggest and oldest one yet. And it didn't break apart near the Sun like some other comets. By studying it, scientists can learn what materials exist in other star systems and better understand how comets, and even planets, form in our galaxy.
A mysterious visitor has just entered our solar system and is zooming through it at a crazy fast speed of 152,000 miles per hour. It's faster than anything we usually see, and it's not slowing down. How fast will it reach Earth? Will the world end when it does? Let's see. This space traveler first popped up in telescopes that watch the night sky all the time, called Atlas. This system has eyes in Hawaii, Chile, and South Africa. They spotted the bizarre object on July 1st, and it's moving straight toward the Sun at that crazy rate. What's even weirder, it's flying in a straight line, not how things usually move around here. At first, scientists thought, whoa, this thing isn't from around here, meaning it was an interstellar object, a visitor from far outside our solar system just passing through with enough speed to not get stuck by the Sun's pull. Then, NASA stepped in and gave this object a name, 3I Atlas. Turns out, it's most likely a comet, a big, dirty snowball flying through space. You won't see it with the unaided eye or a normal telescope, but lucky for us, there's a free live stream from a powerful telescope in Italy where you can watch this mysterious traveler zoom by. We've only seen 2 other interstellar visitors before, one called Borisov in 2019 and the other back in 2017. You might have heard of Oumuamua before. Some thought Oumuamua might be a spaceship from another civilization, but nope, just a strange rock. Scientists think there are lots more of these cosmic visitors out there, just sneaking through without us noticing. And this newly discovered one proves it. But how exactly did it get spotted? It happened on July 1st, 2025, way out in Chile. At the time they saw it, it was about 4.5 times farther from the Sun than Earth is, and it was moving fast. Unlike the planet's unusual space stuff that orbit the Sun in nice, neat loops, this comet is on a hyperbolic path, meaning it's just passing through, not sticking around. Its orbit is super stretched out. This comet is tricky to size up because it's wrapped in a cloud of shiny dust, making it hard to tell how big the solid core really is. Scientists guess it's somewhere between 0.5 and 15 miles wide. The comet is going to swing closest to the Sun, this point is called perihelion, on October 29, 2025, at just over 1.3 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. One of the coolest things about this comet is that it likely came from the thick galactic disk, an old part of our galaxy filled with ancient stars. That means this traveler could be over 7 billion years old.
He says I'm a grumpy old man.
It's possibly packed with water ice from ancient times. In other words, it's a speedy, mysterious comet from far beyond that might hold secrets about the early universe hidden in its ice. Anyway, when scientists first noticed this comet, everyone was a bit puzzled. Was it just another asteroid or something more unusual? The path it was on looked so wild that astronomers actually thought it might come close to Earth. So it got added to a special watch list. But as more specialists checked it out, it became clear this was no ordinary space rock. This visitor was on a hyperspeed path that wasn't just around the Sun. It was coming from outside our solar system. Later, it turned out that even before the July 1st discovery, this comet had already been spotted in earlier photos from the end of May and June. But no one knew what it was back then because it was hiding in the dense, star-filled area near the center of our galaxy. So it was like trying to spot a firefly in a fireworks show. At first, some astronomers thought it might just be an asteroid because it didn't seem to have that usual fuzzy glow or tail that comets have. But by July 2nd, powerful telescopes in Chile, Arizona, and Hawaii caught a faint tail and a little cloud of dust around it, the classic signs of a comet. And once they confirmed this, the comet got its official name. Lots of telescopes jumped in to get a better look. One spotted a tail stretching 15,500 miles long. That's longer than the distance from New York to Los Angeles. Others noticed that the dust around the comet had a reddish tint, just like the dust from the last interstellar comet. Scientists even tried to figure out if the comet was spinning, but couldn't tell because the dust cloud was hiding its core. The Hubble Space Telescope is going to take a look later in July, and scientists worldwide will get access to its data, so everyone can learn as much as possible about this cosmic visitor. So, the comet is going to get its closest to the Sun around October 30th, coming in to about 1.5 times the Earth-Sun distance. Right before that, it's going to swing relatively close to Mars, about 0.4 times that Earth-Sun distance away. So, Mars will get a close-up look. But don't worry, when it comes to Earth, the comet isn't coming anywhere near enough to cause any trouble. The thing is, when 3I Atlas zooms closest to the Sun, Earth will be on the other side of it. That means the comet won't get anywhere near us. Its closest pass to Earth will happen later in December, when it's already heading back out of the solar system. NASA says it won't come closer than about 1.6 times the distance between Earth and the Sun, so no worries there. Woo-hoo! Scientists are super interested in where 3I Atlas actually came from. One recent study says it probably hails from a part of our galaxy called the thick disk. That's where most of the stars in the Milky Way dwell. But they still don't know exactly which star sent the comet our way. One of the researchers says it could have come from tons of different stars, not just the ones nearby. That's because this comet is likely to be super old. it might have been drifting through space for billions of years before finally zooming past us. Scientists think it came inside Neptune's orbit back in 2023, and it'll pass by Neptune again as it heads back out in 2028. Depending on where you say the solar system ends, it could take decades for this visitor to fully leave our neighborhood. Now, could 3I Atlas be a spaceship sent by another civilization? The answer is almost definitely not. Back in 2017, when the first interstellar visitor Oumuamua showed up, some folks thought it would be a disguised space probe. That idea came from weird things about how it moved. They didn't quite add up. But 3I Atlas is acting like a totally normal comet. No strange moves or surprises so far. Still, some scientists are curious and want to check if 3I Atlas shows anything unusual, like tiny boosts that aren't caused by gravity. You might be wondering if we could actually visit this comet. Well, we've sent spacecraft to some space rocks before, like NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission, which landed on an asteroid called Bennu in 2020, grabbed some samples, and brought them back to Earth. That was a big deal. People have thought about doing the same thing with other interstellar visitors, but for now, visiting 3I Atlas just isn't happening. It's a wild comet zooming through, and we don't have any missions ready or built to catch up to it. So right now, astronomers are in a bit of a race to learn as much as they can about this rare visitor before it disappears again. They've got until the end of September to study it before the sun's glare hides it from view. But then, in December, when it pops back out, they'll get another chance. Big telescopes like the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, the most powerful optical telescope out there, are ready to snap some pictures. There's even talk about using the James Webb Space Telescope, and maybe even NASA's rovers on Mars to catch a glimpse as it speeds towards the sun.